Hi everyone and welcome to our webinar. We are delighted to be joined today by the Mitsubishi Electric UK team, and I'm going to bring them on just in a moment. But a big warm welcome to you wherever you are. I know that we've got people joining us from Finland, from Nepal, Puerto Rico, Italy, UK, Australia, Canada. Welcome to you all if you're watching live, or even if you're just watching on the catch up. We hope that you're having a great day wherever you are. So today we're going to be joined by Ivan, who's going to be managing our chat. So if you have any questions at all, do put them in the chat. We love to hear any ideas that you've got, any use cases. We've got someone joining us from Aberdeen there. Hi, Madison. So yes, please do say any thoughts that you have and we'll be able to put them on the screen and answer your questions. If it's a support type question, ask away in the chat as well, because Ivan can reply to you directly in the chat. And after the webinar, as usual, we'll send you an email with the link to the resources that we're going to be sharing, but also it's an opportunity if you want to hit reply and ask any questions as well. So you'll have seen from the sign up, this webinar is all about Mitsubishi Electric UK and how they have scaled immersive VR training with ThingLink. And we're going to be hearing all about the awards they've been winning and so much more. So without further ado, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce the Mitsubishi Electric UK team to the webinar. Hi guys, how are you?
Hello, it's good, thank you.
Amazing. So left to right, if you're watching, we've got Steve. You are the technical trainer for Mitsubishi Electric. We've got Ben Bartlett. You are the senior technical trainer from Mitsubishi Electric UK. And we've also got Lance. And Lance, you are head of customer experience. Is that right? Have I got it right?
That's correct, yeah.
Amazing. So we're super lucky because not only are you an award-winning team, but also it's really unusual to get an organization as big as Mitsubishi Electric who are willing to say, yeah, this is what we're doing, and we're really proud to shout about it. So we're honored that you've been able to join us and tell us more about what you've been doing. So just in case anyone doesn't know, I've got your website up here. So Mitsubishi Electric UK, you are responsible not for the cars, in case anyone gets confused, but for the cooling, heating, ventilation and controls. Can you just tell us a little bit more about what you do to kick us off?
So we're involved in renewable more than anything else. So to do with things like heat pumps, ways of producing heating and hot water via a refrigeration circuit so that you can take the energy from outside and use it to produce heating and hot water. We're involved in air conditioning and refrigeration, and that's the scale up right from, should we say, a small one-bedroom house, if you want to say, right up to massive hotels, things like that. The scalability is massive, and that's also part of the reason why we ended up going down part of this route, because I can't fit all the stuff we need in the training rooms. So it's a way of getting around that issue. I want to show somebody around a massive piece of equipment so they know how to install and commission the equipment. I can't fit it in this training room. So it was one of the ways of trying to deal with a problem solution.
And it's certainly an industry which is booming. I know that there's a big push to have less reliance on fossil fuel, gas and oil. And I know where I am in the north of Scotland, we're seeing a boom in wind farms and the electric infrastructure. So I can only imagine that there's going to be even more demand for the kinds of systems that you're able to provide.
Very much so. So obviously got quite a few things going at the moment in time. We've got things like net zero. We're helping to go towards that, yeah. So the whole point being is we're going to become carbon neutral. That's what we're after. The only way we can do that is by not burning gas and things like that, and therefore going down an electric route and that side of things. The whole point being is it's the most efficient way of doing heating and hot water and things like that. That's what we're trying to push towards. Yeah.
So we got to know you, of course, because when you became recognized in ThingLink, because you were getting so many awards and you were willing to share your story, we actually conducted a case study, which was our first one. And when you get the link in the deck, and I think I put it on the original blog post, you'll be able to click and go to the case study. So the original reason that we got in touch with you was because you were able to demonstrate that you overcame 3 big challenges. Can you just give us a little overview of what those challenges were originally?
Yeah, I suppose, I mean, it depends on how far you'd like to go back. I think if we go back to the days of classroom-based training programs that we used to deliver, it was very much PowerPoint presentation in a classroom. Could only train maybe 12 people at a time. So the initial piece was to find a way of sort of creating our learning in a digital format. How do we get that out to mass market, large scale requests from large companies or small, say, individuals working self-employed, but also get it to them. They could do this learning virtually wherever they are in the world. They don't have to travel 150 miles round trip to a local training facility on a certain day to attend. That was the biggest hurdle to begin with, was blending our learning. Secondary was trying to find, as Ben sort of said earlier, is trying to find ways to deliver training on products that we don't always have installed. As Ben said, we do a lot of small residential application, right up to very large commercial type application of units and products. And those products are extremely difficult to house in a smaller training facility. So the ability to provide virtual learning externally was a massive achievement, I think, for the team so far of what they've achieved, but also a big challenge for the team to be able to design and deliver all this training.
And just to give everyone a scale, what was the size? It's something like 3,500 engineers that you've been able to reach with the training.
Well, actually, across all of our training curriculum, we actually have around 16, 17 courses around curriculum now. And I think a couple of years ago, we had maybe sort of 10 or 11. So we've massively increased the size of the training that we do, both in regulatory sort of training programs and increasing the range of products type training that we do. But we train near around sort of 6,000 places a year are completed year on year with our training, with small percentage increase each year as we're seeing. Certain product ranges have booms and peaks, and we're a very seasonal business as well. So, you get all your air conditioning training tends to be done normally during the winter months, and as in summer they're very busy, and then vice versa on heat pumps and commercial heating, you tend to see more people coming through in the summer months when they're not as busy maybe.
Amazing. So I just thought it'd be really helpful as well. I've got a little snippet of what your sort of training is looks like that you've been able to share with everyone. Can you talk us through a little bit about this experience?
So that's early on part of an install of a large heat pump system for Bournemouth University. So that's why it looks like there's lots of bits everywhere all over the floor, because it was literally part of the way through the install. And this kind of helps everyone to feel like they're in the environment, starts getting their brains going about what the problems might be, what the risks might be, but also what other equipment is going to be involved in installing the heat pump. It's not just there's a heat pump doing the heating and hot water for Bournemouth University. It's all the other bits required to get the job done. And it's trying to make people feel like they're in that environment. And as you quite rightly mentioned earlier on, we were talking about this, we can't take 20, 30 odd people into Bournemouth University plant area. A, there's the risks that are obvious there. B, it's Bournemouth University. They might not be happy about me doing it every week. And there's the whole scalability there. That's quite a large, big open area. I can't have that in my training centre and to be able to train on other equipment. So that was another way of getting around it. But the other thing is also, helps with that whole storytelling. Yeah.
And the only other thing I was going to add to it is this particular one was showing a new version of the equipment. Again, with physical training centres, you can only house so much equipment in there as well, and it becomes very expensive. If we're bringing out new equipment every year, our slogan changes for the better. You bring out new versions, well then now the costs of changing all that equipment across all the training centres becomes quite considerable, as I'm sure you can imagine. So to have a digital format and be able to walk people around that and show it in a real life context really is quite an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, to give you an idea, that one you showed at the beginning of the case study, that little image you showed, that's actually of a unit that we went over to Milan to go and film, so we could actually show everyone else around the unit, because it was a prototype unit. It wasn't clear to go from one country to another, and they didn't want to leave the test area with it. But we needed to get an idea of what it was going to be like when it turned up. We've got to the point where we go, right, put a headset on, have a little nose around inside the unit, get to know where everything is, to the point where I asked one of the engineers after they took the headset off, I said, right, I didn't ask you this beforehand, but I'm asking you now, what tools will you need to remove the fan from that particular unit? And he listed it off to me straight away. Never seen the unit, it's not even in the country. And for me, that was a major win.
Amazing. And we've started to get some questions through. David Barras is saying, what did you use to generate the photosphere? And I think this is a really good question, because this looks so professional. It looks really polished. It looks like so much thought has gone into the placement of the hotspots, the placements of the tags. So could you give us a little bit of insight into some of the tools that you use to create something like this?
That's a great question. So one of the big drives for us, as with anything, is cost and realism. So you could, if you had the budget to, go spend absolute fortunes on creating virtual environments. I think for around about £500, we bought a Insta360 camera with a tripod and a couple other little accessories, and that's it. So literally, you go to your location and you take a series of photos, which is really easy to do. I mean, it's got a fantastic, I think it's a 4K camera on it. So that's how we're able to get such good quality images. And yeah, you do have to think a little bit about, you know, what's the journey, like, you know, sort of storyboarding, like the same as if you're just going to do a video. You know, you sort of think about, you know, what is it we want them to see. Quite often we'll end up taking lots and lots and lots, and we don't necessarily use everything that we use. The first time I had a go at doing this, I kind of tried to make it so people could wander anywhere, what we call free roam. And that actually I found was, it was very hard, because if I changed any one scene, then I'd have to change all the other scenes linked to it. So then after a little bit of practice, I soon realized it's actually better to take them on a journey, you know, and we're going to go here and here and here. So I've got forwards and backwards, if you like. And that was a lot easier, one, to piece together, to edit if I needed to. But I think also a lot easier for the learner to experience, because then there's no fear of having missed out. You know, I started here, I now have reached the end, I know I've covered everything in between. But yeah, in terms of equipment, the 360 camera with the tripod, you link it to your phone. So, because that's the other thing, with a 360 camera, you've got to be very conscious of everything. Not like a normal photo, you can just tuck all the rubbish behind you and then just take your phone. So yeah, so literally it's a 360 camera that has its own software, and then you just import that to ThingLink, and the ThingLink side of things was absolutely amazing and so easy and intuitive to work with.
But we've had to buy the kit in between as well. So there's 360 camera we're using for doing the camera work, but also for doing filming, because we do quite a lot of 360 filming as well. So bits where we're talking to the camera, but also just because we want to make people feel like they're in the environment. You know, the fans are moving, the wind's blowing around. There's things like that just to make you feel like you're more in that environment. And you're quite right. It's just going to reiterate something Steve said there. With the first version, we'll come like, yeah, let them go wherever they want. But the feedback from listening to people come back to us was, yeah, but did I miss anything?
I went around it like 2-3 times just to be sure.
Like, that's great you've spent that amount of time in there, but we've missed a trick. So we've actually, so that particular version that you're talking about with Bournemouth University, you have got a nice storyboard you follow all the way through, and then at the end you've got the option, right, if you want to go and do a bit of free roaming, by all means go and have a wander around again. So then it was Steve having to do double the work, but we learned a lot from it. So it's any type of camera that's got the ability to do that 360 image. We played about with using mobile phones, try and do stitching and things like that. It's trying to get rid of stitch marks and things like that. So that's one of the things that we've been learning the hard way. And also we learned about microphones as well.
Yeah, I mean, I did do an experiment, you know, with an iPhone. You take like a panoramic camera, and again, one of the fantastic features on the ThingLink is it can actually stitch that together and create a 360 image. The only downside to that was that when you look up and when you look down, you sort of lost that sense of realism because the AI is having to do, you know, some work there. Whereas when you take an actual 360 image, it does work significantly better. Also, ThingLink has an AI 360 image generator, which I've used a couple of times and actually got a fantastic result because on one of our demos, we wanted to showcase a few products very quickly. Because at these exhibitions, you don't have a lot of time. You want to make a big impact in as short space as possible. So we basically, in order to show those, how do I transition from one to the other in a way that was sort of coherent? So I had this idea of a spaceship and basically having these portals. I can go through this portal to one, this portal to the other. Obviously, we don't have a spaceship to hand to take a photo of. So to be able to go on there, put in some suggestions of what I've got in my head and it create a 360 image that I can use was just fantastic.
Amazing. So I was just clicking around there because I wanted to find some examples, and I actually showed this one to you guys before we started the webinar. I'm just going to put this on my screen here. So for those of you who maybe don't know ThingLink as well as some of the others on the webinar, there are a number of tools there that Steve mentioned. And the first one I just want to call out is that we do actually have a Pano to 360 Photosphere converter. I don't know about you guys, but I have a 360 camera. This is my Ricoh Theta. I've got a couple of these actually, and quite often they live in my desk drawer. I forget to take them out, and then I go on location. I've forgotten that I've got my 360 camera or it's not charged. So we do have something called Pano to 360, and what this means is you can take that panoramic image, so just one image, and then upload that to ThingLink. We've got an external way to do this, or you can actually do it in our multimedia editor. And then quite rightly, as Ben said, it kind of blurs the tops and the bottoms. It doesn't use AI to kind of replace what would be the top and the bottom. It does blur it, but if you haven't got anything, it's a really good place to start if you're just storyboarding. The other thing that I think you mentioned there, which was just really lovely, is the ability to create your own 360 images from a text prompt. And this one is actually another kind of industry, is the healthcare industry. And this was developed by the University of Salford team. And what they've done here is they've recreated this hospital ward, and the topic is actually a really sensitive topic. It's about ectopic pregnancies and what you would do in that scenario. What would you do if you were deciding whether to discharge someone from the hospital or not? And they've made this really immersive, so you can...
Hi, it's Alex, one of the junior doctors down in A&E. I have a patient that...
So here you've got this simulation, and you can click on the hotspots and then make a decision. But this 360 image was developed from a text prompt. So if you're starting out from scratch and you want to start storyboarding, you could use assets like this to storyboard, couldn't you, before you actually go out on scene and start.
It's possible to create content without any investment. You know, even if someone didn't have a smartphone that could do a panoramic photo, which is almost hard to imagine in today's day. But yes, ThingLink on its own does enable someone to create some, you know, even if it's a draft version, you could get a feel for what it looked like. But yeah, it was fantastic. I find places and rooms it does a fantastic job of. I think with people, you sometimes have to just scrutinise the image a little bit, and that's not a reflection of ThingLink. I think that's more a reflection of AI specifically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes they might have 3 eyes or 4 arms, but it's a very powerful toy. It's fantastic.
There's another comment that's come through from Joseph, who's in Italy, and he said it's a really interesting point about guiding them on the journey. And I really like this point, because I think what it does is that you've actually demonstrated that you're hand holding somebody through that journey of learning, but also you don't know what backgrounds and what skills those engineers have when they come to the training, do you? So you don't know whether they've actually excelled at school. You don't know whether they maybe have not been at school for the last few years. You just don't know. So I wondered if you could just tell us more about your approach to kind of inclusivity and making sure, and I know that you told me some really interesting statistics that actually, you know, you could probably guess, but there's a really high degree of people that are coming into the industry with additional requirements. Could you tell us a bit more about that? Because I know it's fascinating.
So, Louise, there's something me and you were chatting about a bit earlier on, and that's it's a nice little study that the Institute of Refrigeration has done on members. So they're engineers, so refrigeration and air conditioning engineers, and it's getting towards 50% have dyslexia. So that's a big proportion, okay? So putting them in an environment where they've got to do lots and lots of reading isn't going to be suiting them. You're going to lose part of that retention. But I mean, we already know, so those who are involved in learning already, you know that reading, you're going to get around about 10% retention. Excuse me. If we get people involved and more immersed and doing as much as we can, we're getting towards a 30 to 50% retention. Yeah, so 30% retention if you're just going to be sitting there watching a video and not getting involved. You know, the 70% retention, which is really, as trainers, we're all really after, is by doing. Yeah. Now that's why we are where we are at this moment in time, which is our ECADAN training room, because this is where we do hands-on training. So we still like doing this way of doing things, but I can't do that with everything. So this is the way of getting around that situation. So it gets me immersed in the environment and get them feeling like that as much as possible. So yes, we do use words within the actual training. We've still got logos and labels and things like that. But what we try and do, you know, like where you saw it there with the doctor in the picture there, the first thing there was a voiceover. Yeah. So I always do, you know, I'll have the image come up saying this is an automatic air vent valve, for example, and a little blurb, but then I'll explain it much more using a voiceover afterwards. Or it'll cut to a 360 video and I'll actually show them all the bits of components, but the tags will still be there, so they can pause me at any point and click on something that I've just pointed at to get more information, because people learn in different ways. So it's trying to make it inclusive to suit different learning types as well.
I just love that. I think it's just so refreshing to hear from somebody that's thinking about all of these things in advance, because for so many years, the thinking around accessibility was that you just needed to give people tools that would be for their device or a screen reader for them. But what you're doing is thinking about accessibility for all.
There's a little sneaky thing that people don't realize, and that is people with dyslexia are actually really good at 3D modeling inside their heads. It's like a little superpower. So that's another reason why we end up with a lot of engineers doing it, because they'll look at something and go, right, I'm going to do that, and they'll think that everyone else can do this. And they don't realize it's actually a superpower. So, sorry.
Exactly. So it's no secret then that, and I'm going to put my screen back on, that your approach and you just, you know, putting your hands up and saying, this is what we're doing. And it's 5 awards now that you've won recently. So Training Provider of the Year, Training Initiative of the Year, that's for 24 and 25. And someone's even just commenting now saying, I have dyslexia and I can confirm this. So, yeah, I mean, how's it been for you guys to suddenly see that you're getting this recognition from all the good work that you're doing?
More you than anyone else, Lance. You pushed us all away.
I think the recognition started a couple of years ago. We won a couple of awards for our digital learning anyway, so blended learning, especially coming out the back of sort of COVID pandemic and everything. I think this has just been an added string to our bow, really. When we launched the LMS and we launched the digital learning, we always knew we only wanted to go to a certain level with it, because, you know, the training department at the time had never designed its own training programs. It had already been designed by our sort of internal marketing teams. So to take that and then turn it into a team that could design content, deliver blended content, hands-on content, and then to put virtual reality was probably a bit much to begin with. So once the team sort of matured, I suppose, really, and became more comfortable with the digital aspects of training, the VR was the next step. That as soon as I saw the 360 learning management system that we took on, one of the added tools was ThingLink, and I think actually the example of that was going around an abandoned building with art items on the floor and going into an art gallery and everything else. I don't know how we use that. And then actually, as the training's evolved, it's become a very worthwhile string to our bow, can I say? Because I think what we've talked about a lot so far today, and what you've hinged on, is the training to our engineers. But what this software does is so much more. It's a sales enablement tool for our salespeople on the road. They can go into a client's office and get out a virtual headset, or take them through a 2D virtual tour on screen. We've now got smart screens coming into all of our training centres now, so we can actually deploy the virtual reality in our training facility without having to use headsets, but they're easily accessible by salespeople, operations, sales, etc. And careers fairs. Now, Ben talked earlier about doing the data centre world that we did last year with the chiller. We've got the installer show in a few weeks. We've done the Ideal Home show last year, and that was a huge success. We're a headline sponsor with some of our other affiliations, such as BISA. We do World Skills Day, so we're showing this to 15 and 16-year-olds, getting involved and showing them a potential career pathway that they could go down. We are working with several colleges, one actually up in Scotland. Actually, we're up for an award with them, actually, as a partnership award. And we've just come out the back end of a year-and-a-half program now with their engineers who have come in and done hands-on, as Ben said, in our facilities. But actually, we've also given them the access to our digital training platforms, so they can actually do training off-site in their own colleges, at home. So it really does lend itself to a lot of touch points, should we say.
I'm just going to put this on the screen just to sort of summarize. So the engagement points are so important in your design, aren't they? So, and I think you said already that the same kind of experience that we just put on the screen there, that importantly, people can view it on a mobile device. You know,
I was literally just going to expand on some of the things Lance said and touch on that very point. You know, the fact that ThingLink is integratable with our existing 360 learning, that was a win. The fact that ThingLink also, on top of that, enables to view the same content. I haven't had to duplicate anything. You can view that on the PC, on your mobile, on the headset. It was a win in so many ways. It made it immersive. At those events Lance was just referencing, you know, it's certainly been a crowd puller, you know, because there's not been many, if any, others doing that. And I think there will probably be more next year as a result of seeing the success we've had with it. But yeah, it certainly does get people interested, and you know, it makes it immersive. You know, like with the points Ben was making about that retention. At the end of these experiences, we do quiz people, and knowledge retention is the ultimate goal for us. We never expect 100% retention, but the higher, the closer we can get to that, the better. And ThingLink's been a massive enabler in achieving that.
It's becoming normalized. Does that make sense?
Definitely. So you just touched on there. So your success after training engineers of the agencies that are installing the either heating or the air cooling systems, you've now gone on to address the fact that there's a massive shortfall of engineers that are coming into the industry. And, you know, what's your contribution is to show them that actually it's moving with the times, the training is more immersive, make it more interesting and engaging, that actually if someone's starting to think about their career path and they're having the opportunities to see what you're doing to engage them, So what's been the feedback from some of the young people who have been through the experiences? I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, again, it's been really well welcomed from the college network that have worked with us so far, and there's a really good article. It's actually online at the moment. Some couple of publications where the West Lothian College, who we've done a partnership scheme with, and we've interviewed some of the students and have done some video testimonials about how they found the training, how has it elevated their learning that they've been doing at college, which has been absolutely amazing. But again, just reiterate the point, when we are doing these shows and when we're doing these awards, and we have to do sort of a lot of interviews and a lot of presentations to try and even get shortlisted for these awards, let alone win them. And I'll never forget one conversation, one of them who turned around and said, my kid's got a VR headset, and absolutely, I mean, this is the way they're learning everything at the moment. And actually, once we've started having the conversations with the schools, you hear more and more about how they already have VR headsets, they just don't have the content. So if a manufacturer like Mitsubishi Electric can produce that content, it can engage the learners and it can support the lecturers at a lower level. And I think you're absolutely right. I think that the feedback that comes back from them is that it's seen as a more immersive experience. We are an industry that's moving towards 50% of the engineers being 50 and above. And, right. We are not getting, as you said, we have a huge skill shortage. And it's not just HVAC, all industries up and down the country have the same issue. But we really want to try and encourage more young people into the industry and installing, engineering, designing, and all these fantastic roles that are available to them. So, we've started the journey with the colleges, but there's a long way to go. But we're trying to do our part, I suppose.
There's a really interesting question that's come up from Smart City Nepal. So I'm not sure whereabouts they are. Maybe they're in Kathmandu, but how Mitsubishi Training Centre use ThingLink apart from immersive hotspot feature, but what are some of the limitations? And I think it's always good to hear from you, who are using it completely impartially. Has there been any limitations, and have you overcome any of those limitations?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and absolutely. Initially, there were some limitations, and particularly when we would go taking this to events, the limitation was, one of the great things is ThingLink stores the content. So that's fantastic. But the catch-22 of that was the fact that when we would do these events, we would be reliant on an internet connection or Wi-Fi connection to be able to stream that content. Now, when we would set up the day before, and it's just us and the people setting up, Wi-Fi signal as strong as anything, and we're having a great...
Oh, I don't know if that's me or whether we've just lost you there as you were talking about Wi-Fi signals. So I'm hoping that comes back. Ivan, can you put your thumbs up if I'm still here? Okay. Yeah, that's great. So while we're waiting for the Mitsubishi Electric team just to come back online, you couldn't make that up, can you? So I'm just going to put those guys back to the room, and I'm just going to put on my screen there a little bit about what immersive learning is and what it isn't, because I think this is a really nice summary of some of the things that we've been talking about. So first of all, we've been looking at simulation of real context, and this isn't off-the-shelf courses. It works across all devices. It's not just for the VR headsets. And what we've also seen is that it's multimodal and it's multimedia as well. And that's been one of the really important points of being able to ensure that it's been engaging for those learners. I think what you've also heard there is that it's accessible and inclusive, and I can show you some of the accessibility features. And then, as you've seen there, anyone can create with it. It's not been created in high-tech labs by experts either. So I just want to put another question on the screen there whilst we wait for the team to come back, which is, do you do the assessment in ThingLink? And Madison's really jumped in there and said that Mitsubishi Electric at the moment isn't doing the assessment in ThingLink, but the capability is available. So certainly when you're creating those kinds of experiences in ThingLink, and I'm really happy to go into my account and show you. So here I've got my scenarios that I've been working with, and I've got some examples here. There's one which is a barista skills course, which has got some branching features in. And you're also able to build in these branching points. You're able to build in question blocks. And what you can get with that is an analytics overlay, which will show you your learners, or you can see the statistics as a whole. And actually, what you can do then is rewrite that information back to your LMS system. So we are an LMS friendly platform, which means all the statistics would go back. And I know that the guys are already back. We lost you there just as you were talking about Wi-Fi.
I'm talking about internet connection.
That's okay. I'm quite used to dealing with these situations, and at least it was your Wi-Fi, not mine.
It was definitely this end. We are aware of the situation, and but yes, I'm not sure how far I got through that before it occurred, but ultimately, because of internet and the frailties of a live connection, it would sometimes spoil the experience, or we would be held to ransom because, you know, we actually one instant had to pay £600
for 1 day of Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
That's no exaggeration. But again, we fed this back to ThingLink, and the wonderful support team actually made it possible that through their app, there is an official ThingLink app available in the Meta Store. And you can now actually download the content to the device, which is going to be a game changer. And we've got our event coming up later this month. We've got the installer show on the 24th, 25th and 26th of this month, where we're going to be trying that for the first time. Very much looking forward to that, so we don't have issues like what we just experienced.
So let me just go back to our viewer, Smart City Nepal. Thank you so much for asking that question, and I hope that that's been able to give you a very timely answer. And I know that particularly in Nepal and Kathmandu, you can, I mean, anywhere, we can't rely, can we, on Wi-Fi? We always have to have a bit of a backup. So having it downloaded onto the headsets is a really good idea. So one of the other interesting things that came up while you were momentarily off there was about assessment. And I know that there's such a demand to make sure that you're demonstrating return on investment with kind of metrics. Yeah. And when we did the original case study, you did an amazing job at showing how you saved mileage, how you saved time to create, how you even saved on printing. So that was all your kind of metrics that the corporate teams want to hear, and people that might be wanting to invest in ThingLink would want to hear. But I think you've done so much more than that. It's the impact on skills. And I just wondered if you could tell us a bit more about, you know, is there any other kind of spin-offs or evidence that can really show that this is making a difference?
Do you know something actually in the ThingLink which I actually quite enjoyed was when we used to do the free roam, we would just go into a room, go and look at something, do something, and then Ben started to build assessment questions in. So you couldn't go any further until you actually got to that point of competence. So I think the good thing about the ThingLink sort of app itself, I suppose, and utilising it with our LMS assessments, is that you can actually stop people at a certain stage until they can't go any further. We've always done that with our traditional learning, but to be able to do it in a virtual manner is quite good as well, because this is not a click, I'm through. This is okay, I've understood this well enough to know to get to the next point. Because you got to understand that the products that we're dealing with have a huge health and safety element to them. We are working with refrigerated gases, we're working with electric, some very, very high voltage. We're working with water, and those things sometimes obviously don't mix very well together. And to be able to train people to a high level of health and safety and degree of competence is very, very important in the roles that we do, and the training that these guys deliver. So yeah, I think it's extremely important to make sure that those competencies and that those knowledge checks are throughout every single learning program that the team build.
Just to add on that real quick, again, with traditional questioning or sort of examining, you know, you might have a true or false, or fill in the blank, and it just be a very bland white, here's your black text, pick from the answers. But again, with ThingLink, I was able to create pretty much a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire spin-off. I called it Who Wants to Be an Engineer. Same sort of vibe and that. Obviously, no copyrights infringed upon. But again, it just made even the examining, even that assessment process, just that bit more fun and engaging.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun to create as well. You know, we're talking about a lot of benefits from the end users and the learners. As someone who has to create training content as well, just putting it all together, just being able to have that much fun with it as well. As you know, PowerPoint, I'm not going to knock it. It's a very powerful tool. But you know, I think we've all heard the expression "death by PowerPoint." It's not always going to be the most engaging. But yeah, ThingLink just takes it to another level.
Yeah.
So the burning question, and I think we said that we'd kind of start to kind of bring this to a close at 45 minutes or so. So I'd really like to ask you, and I'm sure that everybody else watching would like to know, what's the first thing to do? How do you get started? Do you pick up the phone and phone a friend? Or what do you do? What's the best place to start? What would you recommend?
Well, I can only talk about the experience of what was the first step, which is to kind of showcase some of the. I think I went onto your website actually and started to play with the one where you go around the museum with the whales and everything, and going, oh, this is quite interesting. You got an interactive map, and so we started to look at that, and then you know, how much is a let's say a budget type camera that we could go out and just take a couple of pictures and let's just have a little play with it. So I think it's just sort of experimental. I'm very blessed to have a team of people that are very hands-on and very curious, we call it.
He throws stuff at us and says, "Make it work."
So yeah, I think we'll stick with experimental. And they're always happy to sort of turn their hand to a new product, a new bit of software, a new solution, a new way of thinking. So I didn't have that resistance, but I think if you've got a group of open-minded people who are happy to go and fail a few times and try and fail and try and fail, that's so important.
Yeah.
I think just to add to that, I've done it. I mean, initially, if we're talking about ThingLink, the first thing is going to be, I think you're going to have to subscribe. I don't know what the subscription process packages are. I was very fortunate when I joined the team. It was like, we've got this wonderful new software, have a go and see what you can do. And honestly, you know, yes, if you've got a 360 camera, fantastic. As we've said, it's not necessary. I think you will get a better result if you're prepared to make that investment. But initially, if you're maybe, say, doing your proof of concept to try and get that budget from the powers to be, you could do it with the 360 with your panoramic photos on your iPhone or other phone that can do that. You can try the image, the AI image generation that's built within ThingLink as well. So I don't think initially there's any sort of investment other than potentially the subscription to ThingLink itself. Yeah. In terms of usability, like I say, as Ben touched on, it was kind of like, have a go, make it work.
Just to give you an idea of how bad it was to start off with, right? What we did here, our first experience of talking about doing VR was expensive, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think without knowing what to do, I think when you're looking at, you know, solutions and like you said, you can go and spend 10 grand on a camera. You want to go spend 10,000 on a camera, depending on what you're trying to achieve. But yeah, I think
first one I think was just.
You mean the other solutions we looked at?
Yeah,
$4
million over a few months.
Okay, yeah, before yes, right, okay, yeah, yes. When we did look at people who are going to create environments, and actually you see it's in some of the other people maybe in our industry have gone down the VR route, but gone in a different way and gone with a very virtual. Animated type way.
They're like a video game type.
Yeah, I don't think that didn't work for us, and it wasn't what we tried to achieve. We wanted to create realism. We wanted to create real life examples, real life situations. So
it was scary numbers, wasn't it?
Quarter of a million or so, and that's going to take us 9 months to produce. Whereas with this, we can literally, like I say, with very minimal investment, you can be up and running, creating your own content, editing your own content. Like I say, we had feedback, or we might spot something we've missed, or we just want to tweak and enhance, and we've got that ability to do it straight away.
But we have, I mean, just give it we'll talk about what you need to get started, right? Okay, my shopping list has increased, by the way. All right. So just give you an idea. So we've got better microphones that we get on a standard 360 camera. We've got drone footage. So I've used the drone to create some of the 360 shots to give people depth and an idea of the whole entire area. If we get our own way, we're talking about immersive rooms and things like that. You know, other ways of being able to get into it. So it just builds on, but you need to start somewhere. So it's that first step is actually quite an easy step for us to start getting something created and going, right, okay, let's just show it to everyone else, because it's about that proof of concept, isn't it? Is this actually going to work? How much do you need to invest to actually just get it started so everyone else get an idea of how this actually works? Because we have to get buy-in not just from the rest of the powers to be, but also the rest of the business, and also from our other colleagues.
Yeah.
You know, that first bit, there was resistance from other colleagues within the training team going, yeah, no one's going to be interested in that. It's not going to be that brilliant. And then actually, oh, this works. Okay, I'm going to give that a go. Yeah, all right, yeah. And so we've all parts of the team are now involved in the creation. So that's been really important steps. So that first step is such a hard step, and once it's done, oh, actually, that wasn't that bad.
That's it. And then people sit, and we've had counterparts from other parts of the world, like in the UK, Norway, etc., gone, that looks good. How do we do that? And again, ThingLink has even enabled us to sort of share some content with them, just to be able to, again, sort of enable them to go, look, this is great, we could do this. And but yeah, it can be a very cheap, and like I say, you can potentially go spending big money. I mean, you said about interactive rooms. Not everyone gets on with a VR headset, unfortunately, and we did learn pretty quick that probably one of the safest ways to do this would be to have someone sat down so that they can't fall over, and to stream the content to an iPad so that we can see what they can see and guide them through it, and being, if they can't spot what they need to do next, we can go, just look for that, look down, left, right, yeah, there you go, on there you go.
But we're also getting feedback from customers very recently on that commercial heating one, and I asked, the things we put on there, what did you like, what didn't you like? What didn't you like? Nothing. What did you like? Virtual reality. Right, I know what you're on about. Fine, brilliant, awesome, thank you.
Amazing.
That's
So what you've done is you've shown that actually you didn't have, a massive budget to get started, but just dive in, start using the tools, see the simplicity of it, and then it can just grow from there. So I think you've shown the proof is in the pudding as well. And I feel really heartened that industry providers are willing to try new ways to engage young people as well. And I think we're all wondering now how education is going to respond when AI is so prevalent and schools are struggling. There's a teacher shortage. Exams aren't really contextually relevant for young people. Learning the knowledge to actually pass exams is not right for some young people. So there's a real need to create engaging, kind of more vocational, interest-based learning. And it's really heartening to see that you guys are able to be involved in that. So a huge thank you from me and all of the team here for being willing to stand up and share what you're doing. So we're hugely pleased and thankful for that. I know that there's been some other comments coming through. We've got Claudia, who's usually on our webinars, saying hello. She's happy to be here. She's listening because she wants to take some of those ideas back to Italy as well. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, can they do that on LinkedIn? Do they submit a form via the website? Is there any sort of preferred way if people want to find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn's a good place to start. We've got all our names and our details. But if not, we can send an email address over to you guys. If you've got any general queries, they can come through to the team, and I'm sure they'll answer it. Katie and the team are quite quick to respond. I'm sure they're happy to give anyone a sort of bit of advice or anything if they need it.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for coming and sharing all of your ideas and the processes, and congratulations on the awards that you've won as well. I'm just going to pop my screen back on because I have a couple of little slides just to take us out with, and that is if anybody, I shall just put this on, if anybody watching is interested in having their own demo, then please scan the QR code. You can schedule a session with Dee Gotsopoulos, who is our enterprise account manager. She would only be too delighted to hear from you. Nice comment coming in from Claudia. Interest-based learning is essential for students to succeed. We've had somebody, David Barras, has come back on saying, thank you for an inspiring webinar. Luigi is saying many thanks and congratulations. We do have a couple of other webinars which are coming up as well. So on July the 2nd, we're going to be hearing from Leo Academy Trust, who are based down in London, and they're using ThingLink across the entire multi-academy trust, and they are going to be sharing all of their learning from how to deploy immersive learning at scale. And then also just before that, and next Wednesday, I'm going to be joined by Michelle Salvant, who's from Florida. And she's been using ThingLink, but with the students as creators. So imagine all of your engineers being able to create their own immersive experiences based on what they've learned. It's the next step. So Michelle is going to be showing us how the students in Florida, where she is based, are using ThingLink to create their own immersive journals, all those great multimedia assets that they've been collating and able to annotate and share their own experiences. And I think that's phenomenal. Lots more nice comments coming through. Smart City Nepal saying thank you. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from Kathmandu as well. So all that's left for me to say is, do connect with us. We'd love you to join our socials, LinkedIn, Facebook. We'll be sharing other ideas along the way. And a massive thank you again to the Mitsubishi Electric team. Thank you all of you for joining us. Your questions and your comments and your feedback always keep us going, and we are going to be putting a lot more of these, so do keep in touch with us. Thank you, Ivan, who's been in the chat helping as well, all the way from Helsinki. So all that's left to say is thank you again, Mitsubishi Electric UK training team, and thank you to everyone for watching. We look forward to hearing from you again. Take care, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Take care. All the best.
Okay.